Welcome to The Right Focus, a podcast for writers, newbies, and veterans, and everyone in between. We're hosted by Emma Lee with the assistance of Remy Black and Edie Rooms, all from Writers Inc. Books. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Each episode lasts as long as it takes to fix a quick dinner, drive a short commute, or take a brisk walk. Resources and links are in the show notes. Visit us at therightfocus.blogspot.com. Now, on to this week's episode.
No problem. No worries.
You're Denise Johnson. Why don't you introduce yourself to us? Tell us about a little bit about your writing, and then let's go straight into the technology that you use.
Okay. Yeah, I've been writing for, a number of years. I write business articles by day, but by night I write fiction. And I pretty much range from mystery, sci-fi, and psychological horror. And started with short stories and have written and published my first book. So technology-wise, I've run the gamut, trying to find the best way to get my writing out into the world. And currently what I do is I use my Apple phone for notes because I always get ideas on the run. And then I use a MacBook with Scrivener, a program for writing novels, scripts, all kinds of things, even short stories. I found that worked better for me than just plain Word. And so I use the MacBook because I can roam around the house or anywhere and write. And when I'm developing stories, characters, whether it's for a book or short stories, I just like to be able to do that because you never know when inspiration is going to hit. And I make sure I don't have any email on that laptop. So there's no email to distract me or anything. And once I'm done with, whether it's a short story or a novel, once I'm done, I transfer it over to my desktop for editing. And I do that because I feel like then the creative part, not that the creative part is completely over, but the creative part where I can just be, I can roam around the house and whatnot is done. And now I have to be serious, sit down at my desk and edit and edit and edit. And that's what I do. And it's worked really well for me. I struggle with trying to use just one thing for all of it, but I find this works best. My mindset changes when I become the editor.
That's good. So is there a particular, Scrivener is basically your software, which you're using on Mac. When you were, are you traditionally or independently published? Indie published.
I'm self-published.
Okay.
Yeah,
great.
well, for the novel, for the short stories, it's through publishers.
Right. What did you use to format your manuscript for the novel, and did you create your own cover? What did you use? Technology did you use?
The good thing about the novel is, and one of the hindrances I found with Word was that moving chapters around, right? So when I was trying to use just Word, because a lot of people do use it, I was finding that I just didn't have that flexibility of moving around easily. And so that's when I went hunting for Scrivener, and Scrivener has so many useful tools that I don't even know how all of them work because there's just so many. But one of them is being able to move the chapters around. And also the best part is that it formats manuscripts. So if you say you're working on a fiction novel, it formats it for you. And then you can just worry about the scenes within the chapters and all of that. But it takes a lot of the pain away on that. And then at the end, when when I compile it over to Word, that's what it's called. It's called a compile feature. And you can compile it into a number of different formats, but I do it in Word. And then that's how it goes in chapters. It's got a title page, just everything you need.
Hmm. And did you do your own cover for your book?
For the cover, no, I debated that and I decided to go out and purchase a cover. I purchased a ready-made cover, but I think it works really well with the book.
Hmm.
And so far, I mean, it's been great working with the cover, the designer, the cover designer, because he's provided me with all different formats. Because you need one for the audio book,
Right.
which will
Hmm.
eventually come out next year. You know, hardcover needs a different size. I would
Right.
never have been able to figure that all out. So that's been super helpful. And it was relatively inexpensive. I got it all for under $300.
How did you find your cover designer? Did you go to Fiverr or just a global search on the
I
internet?
I kind of debated that. I looked, I'm on a number of Facebook writing groups, so I looked through
Hmm.
there. And then I decided, okay, I don't, because when you're self-publishing, there's only a certain amount of funds you have for everything. And I
Hmm.
wanted to spend more on the edits, the developmental and the proofreading edits. So I started looking at ready-made covers and I found this one, just I think Googling and they look very professional. And I tried to find something within the same genre, the kind of letterhead they use or letter font they use and the color schemes. And so I've been really pleased with it.
When I first started looking for a cover designer, that was in 2013. And so
Okay.
now it's a completely different world. 11 years has made a huge difference in
I
the quality of the covers that are coming out from indie designers. And it's just amazing. So if anybody was looking the way I was and then stopped looking, that they need to go look again because there are good quality covers that are out there and they do work with you. I like that a lot. How else do you use technology? Do you find it's helpful in your productivity? Like Sisters in Crime is promoting that pacemaker app. I shouldn't say promoting, making available the pacemaker app, which helps you set your word count per day and show you how you're doing through that. Like I'm at 63% in a short story. And it's really nice to
Mhm.
see that, but I could have figured that out myself in my calculator.
Yeah.
So, is there anything that you use that you find helpful?
Well, that's mainly it. What I used though, when I was trying to begin advertising, since I'm
Mm-hmm.
a new author, as far as a manuscript goes, I found some ways like I needed to make a book trailer. And so, I've watched webinars and such, and I thought, this could be daunting. And so I found a company, it's called let's see, where is it here? Flex Clip. And I used it for the first time and I was able to make a book trailer in 20 minutes. And I thought, well, that's handy. And everybody that's seen it liked it. It looks kind of like a movie. So, typically when I use technology, like I try to be a quick read and try to find something that works pretty quickly and, is easy to master, but
Mm-hmm.
also provides a quality product, right? So I've done that. I did a quick, again, because I'm a new author, I did a quick TV ad campaign because you can actually purchase a few seconds of advertising on streaming, shows and channels and such. And so I
Mm-hmm.
found this company called Vibe.company and they do that. And so I was able to do that flex clip and make a shorter version for a TV ad and do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that ran for a while. I'm looking at blip ads, which would be on digital billboards.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing I like to use technology for, is for I think for advertising, because so many people are on their, media devices. I feel like even though they like to read, they want to see short snippets of what something's about. So that's what I find most useful.
Well, since you're going in that direction, do you use ads on or post on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok? Um, Because your little
I
clips might have worked well on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah, I haven't delved into TikTok yet. And Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, I just, corresponded with people whenever there's a writer's lift type thing where they
Hmm.
want people to tout their work. I'll put it in there. So I've been doing that type of thing, but I'm looking at Amazon ads and Facebook because I know those are the big ones for
Hmm.
authors. And Book Talk. I need to look at that as well. But right now, I thought just so people get a visual of the cover and my name, I thought that's the best way to do it. So that's what I've been trying to do right now.
Hmm. Because that flash
Yeah,
often attracts attention the first time, and then
yeah,
they hunt you if they're intrigued. Um,
right, exactly. And I'm looking at QR codes to add to that.
mhm.
So if somebody's stuck in traffic, maybe they could take a photo and, get it right on there with a universal book link type of
Mhm.
thing. But yeah, because I think somewhere I'd read with advertising, you have like 7 seconds to get
Yeah.
somebody's
Mhm.
attention. So that's what I'm trying to do initially. So
Right. So you talked about you're on Amazon. Are you on any other major distributors?
yeah, I'm working on getting on in-room Sparks for the
Hmm.
bookstores, but I've got Amazon, I've got Apple, I've got Kobo in Canada.
Hmm.
I've got Google Play will be shortly, and then there's a whole host of other platforms in other countries that I'm on as well that are part of Publish Drive, which goes through Google Play.
Right.
Um, and obviously Amazon and in-group Spark. So it's gonna, luckily with those few, you can get a huge market, get in front of a huge market. So I'm hopeful.
Right. Okay. Are you going to Kobo and Apple through Draft to Digital, like an aggregator like that? Or are you
Uh,
just hitting it individually?
well, Apple was a little bit convoluted because I wrote my book under I'm calling it a pen name, but it's actually going to be my name going forward.
Mhm.
And so Apple is very stringent. You can't have two names. So I had to go through them through Publish Drive because
Right.
Publish Drive is a smaller aggregator.
Hmm.
But Kobo, I went direct because I had read an article about the top 5 platforms to go to, and since when you go to the platforms directly, you're going to get 70%, right? At least with the ebook. But if you go through Draft to Digital, they'll take another 10%. There is an ease of use by doing that. But right now I'm trying to go for the individual platforms if I can. It was just with Apple, they were very stringent on the name, so I had to go a different route.
Hmm. Did you have any difficulty turning your brain sideways? I know you talked about the fact that you're in the advertising field. Did you have any difficulty coming up with a teaser for your novel or writing the book description? Um, because a lot of
I
people who just write fiction have difficulty with that.
Yeah, I didn't. I think because I initially queried it looking for an agent, and so you have to keep your query short and punchy. And so over time, you just get that. I feel like you develop that skill. And so I just shortened my description in my query to be my back of book blurb, and other things kind of came to me. So it's about the book is about it's called Misconception, and it deals with pregnancy and someone who gets pregnant by 2 different men in a rare condition. And I said, a little blurb on the front, I wrote, "When the vows break, the cradle will fall." And that just came to me. And I thought that was a, catchy
Yes.
little thing
Mhm.
there. Yeah.
It's going to, well, it hits because it fits that well-known rhyme. It will hit a subconscious ping in people's
Yeah.
minds. Um, and, they will see that and then think of your story. Um,
Yeah.
is that novel already out?
Yeah, so the ebook came out October 31st, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the print paperback came out on November 15th.
Right.
And I'm debating a hardcover just because it's not as popular anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then the audio will come out next year.
Right.
So yeah, so it's an exciting time. But yeah, I recommend people, it's not too hard to think of punchy things if you think of if you put your mind in the mindset of like a movie trailer that you've seen and things that really catch your attention on commercials, and you just kind of gear your writing that way, especially when you're trying to advertise yourself. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
a great way to do it.
Tell me about your short stories. How did you get into writing short stories? Where do you sell your short stories? What do you find different about writing a short story versus a novel?
So when I was very, very young, I loved writing. So when I was in grade school, I loved writing. I had a great teacher that fostered that hobby, I guess you'd call it. And, as I got older, I thought about going into journalism in college, but then I didn't, and went into a more practical field and worked in insurance for a number of years. And I always thought, gosh, I was a claims adjuster, and I thought, I just don't want this on my tombstone. I just don't want to be, here lies a claims adjuster. And so I thought, what makes me happy? And I remembered writing. And so I started doing that. I went to a writer's conference to kind of get into it. And what I first thought was, I want to write for a living. So my first endeavor was to turn my insurance knowledge into something that I could write about. And I
Mm-hmm.
was able to do that by just starting to write in my spare time, general interest articles for local magazines, small magazines, town magazines, things like that. And then kind of work my way up. When they had in-flight magazines, I was in a few of those. And then I was able to transfer that and get a job in the field of writing for a trade publication that was, covered insurance topics. And I
Mm-hmm.
did that for a while, but that wasn't where I wanted to stop. I wanted to write fiction, like all my favorite authors when I was younger. And so I started writing short stories in my
Mm-hmm.
spare time. And what I would do is I would find resources, like there's so many resources. I'm a member of the Short Mystery Fiction
Mm-hmm.
Society. There's just so many lists that tell you where to go or where to submit, like Submittable, where you can submit short stories and calls for anthologies. And I just started doing that. And probably have had, I don't know, 15 to 20 short stories published. And that wasn't enough for me. Then I thought, I really want to write a book. And boy, that was eye-opening, because this is actually the one that's published is my third. Because you know how it is, like you
Yeah.
hear everybody has at least one in a drawer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true, because you learn so much. You think you know because you maybe sat in on webinars and heard other authors speak. And
Mm-hmm.
then you start doing it, and it's like, oh my God, what am I doing? And then like Hank Philippi Ryan, she's a well-known mystery author,
Mm-hmm.
the muddle in the middle, that middle
Yes.
part is the worst. And that's a big deal when you're writing, going from short stories to a full-length novel.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean, suddenly you're what you were talking about pacing, you're 20,000 words in and you're thinking, what now? What happens to my characters now? So in my first book, I did an outline. I was a pantser, because pantsing is easy when you're writing short stories. And I realized, well, I still like pantsing a little, but
Mm-hmm.
I definitely outline. I mean, it might be a very broad outline, but I know where I'm going, because you
Mm-hmm.
really need to. You need to have a little bit of a map.
Right.
Otherwise I found myself floundering,
Mm-hmm.
like what happens to this character? I don't know. So it's been really eye-opening, but um, very fulfilling. I mean, when you finish a book, even though it's not done, because I don't even know how many rounds of editing, and you're almost sick of it. But
Yeah.
there is that feeling of just the joy, especially when you finally have a printed copy of it and you're just so excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find that Do you find that as you go along and you're writing the novel, you have a main arc that you're following? But did you find that as you got into the middle or closer to the end, that you started creating a sort of jot list of this has to happen, and this has to happen, and this has to happen?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I have like a whole notebook that because first you're writing on scraps or you're, adding notes, because there's a little note section on each of the pages that you write within Scrivener. And that's useful for research where you can put links, website links. I found that completely useful. But, you almost needed, at least for me, I needed a actual pen and paper and think of things that like, oh, that won't work until this happens. And then suddenly you think, oh, there's another storyline that could be, a B story. And so definitely, I mean, you really do, as I'm not one of those writers that has the index cards for everything,
Right.
for every aspect of the book and then moves them around. I tried that and it just didn't work for me. There has to be a little bit of surprise for me too when I write. So that is very helpful to have a note and just kind of go along and write, okay, somewhere chapters, 15 to 20, something like this is to happen, So yeah, and it's great when you get to check mark it,
Yes.
and
Scratch it off the list.
yeah, exactly. But I will say one thing you don't realize when you write short stories, because they're shorter, is how many words, the unique words you use repetitively. Like each word has it, Scrivener has it. You can go back and see how often you use a word. And then you'll see phrases though that you use and you think, oh my gosh, and somebody might point them out to you because you don't realize it. And it's and then once you see it, you think, oh, why am I using that again? You have such a grasp of the English language, and here you keep using that same phrase.
I am most guilty of the word so. So this
Really?
So what do you think? So and I have to keep deleting it. I just do a global hunt for it and I start taking it out.
Yeah, I'm guilty of just. I say just quite a bit, and I think, my gosh, nope, delete, delete, delete. I will say I do use an online thesaurus quite a bit. Because I mean, I feel like I do, like I said, have a pretty good grasp of the English language, but sometimes you need more words for one, a descriptive. So yeah.
Now, your short stories, do several of them follow a common theme or anything like that? So that you might possibly, when you get the reprint rights back, bundle them together in a sort of anthology or collection?
I've thought about that. Perhaps. I mean, I do write a fair amount of cozy mysteries. But I'm not sure if there's enough to make or a theme that would go, because sometimes what happens is, sometimes an idea will come to me, but sometimes there'll be a call for a specific idea, so like there was a call for a family type of horror for this one anthology that I did. And so I wrote, at the time, my dad was going through, he had dementia. And so I had this horrible dream that what if someone with dementia didn't know that they should pass away. And so I wrote about that. And so things like that. So I think perhaps in the future, and I do have an idea for an anthology in the future, a theme, but I haven't put anything on paper yet on that.
Okay, so that's this hanging out there, sort of lurking in the side of your brain, saying, "Don't forget this idea."
What I hate is I don't have any, like, I shouldn't say I hate it because a lot of people have writer's block, but I always have ideas, like there's not an end to ideas. And then that's why I have this, it would be a scroll if it was on paper of notes of ideas. And I just hope I can get to them all, I have so many and I'd love to start them all, but I don't want to leave them hanging,
I've had what I thought was writer's block in the past, But when I looked back, because I do a sort of basic recording of what I do each day, it's because I had so many distractions or disruptions that were preventing me from writing. So
Okay.
I wasn't blocked, except there were huge barriers in the way that was preventing me from getting to my desk so that I could write. Okay, I think
Yeah.
we're coming up on like 20 minutes. So is there anything you want to promote or talk about? This probably will air the last of March. So,
Okay.
um,
Well, Misconception is out, and by then the audio should be out.
right.
And so you can get it pretty much anywhere. It's Misconception, in my pen name, Denise Forsythe, Forsythe. And
Hmm.
my website is deniseforsythe.com.
Great. Thank you so much, Denise.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Thanks for listening to The Right Focus, a podcast for writers at all levels, hosted by Emma Lee from Writers Inc. Books, assisted by Remy Black and Edie Runes. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Music is licensed through Audio Jungle, called Background Music Loop. Its creator is Alexander Polishchuk, known on Audio Jungle as Plastic 3. The music comes in different iterations. Show notes and resource links for this and other episodes can be found at therightfocus.blogspot.com. Write to us at winkbooks@aol.com when you have questions, comments, and speculations. We will try to answer you as quickly as possible. By the way, we will not mind your email address. That's rude. If you find value in our content, share with your writing friends or write a review. We're small beans here without the advertising budget of the big peeps, and you can make a difference. And whatever occurs, write on.